Now, before you start thinking, oh, here we go, another nobody has read a book or two trying to tell me a whole bunch of cliches. Thank you for tuning in. I am your host, Joseph Martin. Hit that like and subscribe button to support the channel and hit that bell icon to receive notifications. If you want to become better as a trader, you're going to have to work on the exact same thing you would have to work on to become successful in life. I want you guys to understand that skill sets don't work in isolation. They complement one another. Think of a detective. If they were off duty, their training of paying attention to their surroundings and unique details that most people would overlook wouldn't be turned off. That skill has become an ability that they possess, a superpower, so to speak. So Superman taking a walk doesn't mean he no longer has the ability to fly. Since he has that ability at all times, if he tripped, he could just take flight to avoid the fall. That's one of the most powerful things you gain when acquiring skills. The benefits of those skills helping you in areas you didn't develop them for. I call it a skill set compounding effect. When your goal is to become better in any area of your life, the only thing you would need to commit to is working on yourself. Now, before you start thinking, oh, here we go, another nobody has read a book or two trying to tell me a whole bunch of cliches. Seriously, hear me out. Naturally, we're egotistical as human beings. And when we hear something like what I just said, that you need to work on yourself, we instantly become defensive because what we're hearing sounds like they're saying there's something wrong with me. Since I'm perfect, and it's not even possible that something is wrong with me, that all adds up to you don't know what you're talking about. Think about it like this. Let's look at the sport of basketball, for example. And there's a player that keeps missing free throws. The coach is probably going to tell that player, you're going to have to work on your free throws. Now, during practice, does the coach have the ball the players shoot free throws with, watch videos on physics and the importance of going in the basket? Or does the coach have all the other players on the team work on their free throws and have the player that's struggling just watch? No, guys, absolutely not. Why? Because that individual player has to accept the fact it's something they're doing or not doing that's causing them to miss their free throws. So working on their free throws is in fact them working on themselves as a basketball player. The coach isn't saying it's something wrong with the player. The coach is pointing out that there's something wrong with the player's game, specifically in the area of shooting free throws. If telling you that you need to work on yourself is something that would bruise your little fragile ego, then change it from working on yourself to doing the work yourself. Just by making a minor adjustment to the wording, it takes the focus off of you and puts it back on the work. The basketball doesn't need to come to practice to become a better basketball. You need to do the work of coming to practice to become a better basketball player. You don't need to watch other basketball players shoot free throws for them to become better basketball players. You need to shoot the free throws yourself for you to get better. This simple shift in wording could have a huge positive impact on you mentally by understanding this isn't about your ego. This isn't about your pride. This is about you getting better so you can accomplish your goals. I learned this technique from reading Atomic Habits by James Clear. In this book, he talks about reframing what you tell yourself to fight off procrastination. Instead of telling yourself you have to do something, you tell yourself you get to do something. Think of it as an opportunity instead of a task. I believe this is one of the main reasons so many people struggle when it comes to finance, trading, and virtually anything that deals with managing money. And that's them not understanding how much psychology is involved, their mindset, which is a playbook for making decisions based off beliefs, biases, and information that they hold true. And if they're unwilling to change any of those things, it could be destroying any hope of being successful in finance, trading, or any area in life. This goes back to the concept of someone having to accept the idea, just the thought of it being a possibility, they could be wrong about something. The best place to begin changing results that you're not happy with is to review and ask yourself what actions you took or didn't take that led to them. This process is impossible for someone who has a mindset that renders them incapable of admitting that there could be an error made on their part. People skip right over this crucial step of finding out if they currently have a mindset that's capable of admitting mistakes. This is extremely important because you have to acknowledge mistakes before you can work on them. If you don't have this mindset, you can forget it. I'm just being honest with you. But I do have good news for you. If you know you're one of those people who can't admit or even hate to admit when they're wrong, I have some ideas to help you develop a coachable mindset. The first thing is for you to know and understand these two principles and how they work with one another versus canceling the other out. The first principle is that there's always room for improvement. The key word here is always, not sometimes or never, but always. The second principle is that nobody is perfect. The key word in that sentence is nobody. Okay. Here's why these two principles work so well together. If either one of them was written to where the keywords were changed to its opposite, it will cancel the other principle out. If there was never room for improvement, then the principle that nobody is perfect would become false. If the second principle was changed to everybody is perfect, then there's always room for improvement would also become false. They would both need to be there's never room for improvement and everybody is perfect in order for both to be true. Here's the funny thing about people who believe that they're perfect in the sense that nothing they do is wrong. And that is that nobody else is perfect because it's always somebody else's fault. The problem of being egotistical runs deep, guys. I'm trying to tell you, crazy business. Okay, now that you have these principles and newfound understanding, the idea of being perfect in the sense of making any mistakes is an impossibility is a crazy way of thinking. And it's a mindset that causes more harm than good. Here's why. I believe that mistakes can also be viewed as temporary failures. Here's an interesting fact. All successful people have failed their way to success. This is written all throughout history. The most effective lessons come from what you're able to learn from mistakes, not just from your own mistakes, but the mistakes of others. So if you believe you're perfect, you don't have any mistakes to learn from. So you don't learn from your own mistakes because you refuse to admit you make any. And any mistakes made by someone else aren't worth learning from, since you believe you're too smart to make the same ones they made. You have to have a coachable mindset. This is why the first thing mentors look for in mentees over potential is coachability. Here's where it gets good, guys. This means nobody wants to work with you, and you believe or tell yourself that you don't want to work with nobody. Like those single people that say, I choose to be single. Don't nobody want you. If you're not coachable, nobody who values their time and who ethically understands it won't do you any good anyway wouldn't coach you, no matter how many commas you put on it if you paid them. That's because valuable people always value their time more than money. But I digress. So no one wants to work with you, and you set out to self-educate, which is something we discussed in last week's video. But this isn't effective because you don't realize that being able to self-educate is a skill. How can you improve if you can't admit you're making or have made any mistakes to learn, grow, and improve from? Your greatest challenge is you. Most of the time, it's not that we have yet to find our way. It's that we're in our own way. In order to work on yourself, you have to do the work yourself. I'm going to say that again because you might have heard something I didn't say. In order to work on yourself, you have to do the work yourself. I didn't say you have to do it by yourself. Going back to our basketball analogy, you can practice shooting free throws with a team, or you can shoot the shots alone. That's up to you. So here's what you have to ask yourself. What's more important to you? Being right or being better? Being perfect or being effective? If you want to have success as a trader, do you want to be right or do you want to be profitable? If you want to have a successful marriage, do you want to be right Or do you want to be a good spouse? Nobody is perfect, guys, and that includes you. The best we can ever hope to do is be humble enough to admit it and constantly do the work it takes to improve. This video has been another reminder that education is where the money is. And the book for today is Critical Thinking Skills for Dummies by Martin Cohen. In chapter 3, titled Planting Ideas in Your Head, The Sociology of Thinking, man, that almost sounds like $1 million book title within itself. I'm telling you. This book is powerful. And here's a story to help me explain why. About 25 years ago, there was this extremely popular anti-theft device for automobiles called the club. It was made out of steel, and it was a device that you locked onto your steering wheel. The club was long enough to where it could get caught on something like the window, the windshield, the driver's legs, that would prevent someone from making complete turns. If you tried to cut the club off, it would take a long time and make a lot of noise, so thieves would just move on to an easier target. But here's what happened. All of a sudden, people using the club were getting their car stolen left and right and couldn't figure out why. And that's because the thieves stopped focusing on what they couldn't do and started focusing on what they could do. Their goal was to be able to make as little noise as possible and be able to drive away with the car. So instead of cutting the club, they started cutting the steering wheel just enough in one spot to bend it and slide the club off. They aired this on a news broadcast showing a masked man breaking into a car with tinted windows and a few seconds later stepping out with the club in his hands. This is the skill of critical thinking in action. You need to understand how something works to recognize it and defend yourself against it. So learning about propaganda and different forms of manipulation isn't for you to become a better manipulator, but identifying that there's a hole in your defenses and understanding you're going to need something better than a club. So if you want to read this book for yourself, you can check it out from your local library like I did. Or if you want to purchase it, I have a link down in the description, and it does help the channel at no extra cost to you. You already know. I hope that you learned something, and I hope that you earned something. Put your $ and books down in the chat. Leave a comment. Let me know what you guys think. And if you want to learn about a framework to develop the ability to effectively self-educate, check out this next video. Take care and God bless.